So a while ago, I made a video on color, and when I got to the root for the word blue, Behl, I realized that there's a lot of words that are related to that root. So I thought I'd make a whole video talking about just this one word in Proto-Indo-European, Behl. To refresh your mind on that list of words, I'm going to read it to you. Beluga, butane, blanket, bleach, blonde, blitzkrieg, blemish, Belarus, phlegm, flame, flamingo, blush, blind, effulgence, flamboyant, blend, and riboflavin. That's 17. 17 words. One video. Can he do it? So, let's go through the two Slavic words first. Those being beluga in Belarus. Beluga means white whale in Russian. That Bel root, meaning white, and Belarus also has that Bel root, and it means white Russia. I talked about Belarus in the first video. Let's tackle the Germanic ones. Bleach came from the idea of making something white, which is in Proto-Germanic Bleichen. Blanket was specifically to refer to a white piece of cloth, like a woolen piece of cloth. That came to us through French, which came from Frankish, which is a Germanic language, blank, which means white or gleaming. Blitzkrieg means lightning war, and blitz comes from the Proto-Germanic blickatgen. Notice that all of these come from, even in Proto-Germanic, different words. So even over 2,000 years ago, the root Bel was splitting in the language families, which I think is crazy. And that word blickatgen meant to flash. So you can understand how something that's flashing is leading to lightning. Blemish is from the Old French Blemish, meaning to make white. It's ultimately from the Proto-Germanic blas, which had the same meaning. So you can see that, like, a blemish is something that's, like, discolored, and then comes from an idea of making something white. Blush is from Old English blisken, meaning to become red or to glow, and that comes from the Proto-Germanic blisk, which means to burn. So you can see how something that's burning came to be glowing, came to be turning red. Blind comes from Proto-Germanic blindas, which possibly means to make cloudy or to deceive, which surprised me. I expected that to be something about brightness, blinding you, but it has to do more with obscuring something. And that also is related to the word blend. Old English blanden, which means to mix, led to the word blend. So those both came from that blindas root. Those are the only two that came from the same Proto-Germanic root, blind and blend. Got all that? Okay, great. We're going to go to the Romance ones. Flame comes from the Latin flamma, which means bright, blazing fire. A flamingo also comes from this root, from the Spanish flamenco, which means flame-colored. So we can see how something that's bright could also be fire, could also be something that's a bright, blazing fire, which became flame, or something fire-colored. That's another color-based word. I'm going to talk about those later. The idea of dancing wavy fire led to the French flamboyant, which meant wavy, and eventually with flame-like curves in 15th century English. So we can see that something that's flamboyant is kind of something that's dancing. I think recently came to have the different connotation that it has today. Effulgence, which means like a bright, shining thing, comes from the Latin effulgentium, which means to shine. So I like the one word I didn't know out of the list I said was the only word that kept the same meaning for 5,000 years. And then the last one from Latin, the flavin and riboflavin comes from Latin flavus, or flavus. Is that flavus or flavus? Someone who speaks Latin, let me know how to say their A in the comments below. But that word means yellow. Another color word. phlegm comes from the Greek phlegma, meaning to burn or be warm. So that's kind of gross, but I like to remember that Aristotle had those four humors that were all associated with the elements. And the humor, if you don't know what a humor is like fluids in the body. And he associated different fluids with different diseases, and also associated that these fluids meant that there was too much of something in the body, which was either fire, water, earth, or air. That's a whole different subject. But flame was paired with fire, or phlegm was paired with fire. Blonde is a weird one. We aren't completely sure where it came from. We're pretty sure it came from medieval Latin blundus. But that doesn't mean that it necessarily had to come from Latin. It could have been a Frankish word, for example, that was in French that they decided to put in Latin works. Because at that time, people were still writing in Latin, but didn't speak it. If that makes sense. Let me know if you want me to clarify that at some point. It could be from that Latin Flavus, which meant yellow. It could be from could be related to the Old English beblunden, which meant to dye. So, like, if you dye your hair, you could be bleaching it and making it blonde. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Now, remember I said butane. I read this list at least 5 times before I uploaded that video. Turns out, it didn't say butane, it said beltane. Which is something I hadn't heard of. I'm sorry, I'm a monster. But, it's an Irish holiday. So this is a Celtic-based word. And it means blazing fire. It's this old Celtic festival celebrating the first days of summer, but it's celebrated on the 1st of May. Sometimes it's called Old May Day. It's kind of this old tradition that they have mainly in Ireland, and I think a little bit in Scotland. Sorry. Now for some closing words on what to make from all of this. This whole episode, you can think of it like a super word web. I'm not going to animate that word web because it would be ginormous, and I'm lazy. But it's interesting how this one concept, something that's bright, something that's shining, something that's white, has come to mean so many different things. And we can kind of follow each language family and come to understand why it came to mean those things. Like, it seemed that in Latin, they were really focusing on the fire aspect of it. And it seemed that in Germanic, they were really focusing on the whiteness and the brightness side of it. So, that's cool, but you also have to realize there are 5 different colors in different languages that came from this one word. There was the Slavic white and the modern Romance white. The Blanco, in French you have Blanc. Those all come from this, as well as the Behl in the Russian. You have blue in all the Germanic languages. You've got flamingo, which means flame-colored. So we're talking all of a sudden about pink. We've got that Flavus from Latin, and that's come into other languages. And you have black. I didn't talk about this in the last video, but I said the root for black was bleg. That comes from Behl. So something that's burned coming from something that's fire, like, that kind of makes sense too. So that meant this one word came to mean 5 colors. Basically every meaningful color you can think of. White, black, red, yellow, blue. That's crazy. That's just nuts to me. This is why understanding how languages work is so important. And I know just understanding the root word coming to mean so many different things doesn't necessarily help you day to day. But suppose you're trying to speak another language. Or suppose that you're speaking to somebody who doesn't speak English very well. And maybe they don't know the word flamingo. You could say, you know that bird? It looks like it's flame colored. It looks kind of like fire, and it stands on one leg, and it lives in the water. And they might go, oh, okay, yeah, I've seen that. Or real life example that I have. I was talking to an Iranian man, and I was trying to learn how to say peacock in Persian because I wanted to, because I thought that they were from Persia. And never mind that. But I asked him how to say peacock, and he said, I don't know that word. So I was like, it's a blue bird with eyes on its feathers. And it'll fan out like that. And he was like, oh, okay, Flavus. So you have to think, when you're speaking to someone who doesn't speak English, what is another way I can say this that's simpler? And thinking about how different words can mean the same thing, you can use that to your advantage, at least in my personal experience. Thank you for watching Word Nerd. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and have a great day. Adios.